All right, welcome back to Blue by 90. I'm Justin, joined by Tanner today. And for the first time since New Year's Eve 2022, we are doing a post-game pod after a Michigan loss.
Worst loss since COVID. I mean, I guess Georgia, but that's like,
But then
I guess Georgia, but
I don't know. It was tough because I chalked that up to the Georgia game. Like, they were really, really good. But now that I'm thinking about, like, I actually do think Texas is really, really good too.
yeah.
But yeah, this is a tough one to swallow. We went to the game together, talking a little bit at post game, hung out with some friends last night too, and we haven't had this feeling in a long time, man.
No.
A long time, and especially 29 games at home. 29 games. That's over 3 seasons, right? So, I'm wearing my Rose Bowl hat today to remind myself of better times. I think it's this is just a tough pill to swallow right now. And there's no other way to put it. Like, there's no excuse making. There's nothing going on like that. Like, I just don't think that, Michigan does not have the same type of squad that they've had the past 3 years. The talent level is a lot different. And like I said, Texas does for sure.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Like, Michigan under Jim Harbaugh did a really good job of, even when they weren't getting, high 4-star and 5-star kind of guys, that the guys that they did recruit played at that level. Like a Mikey Samerstill, Chris Jenkins, both 3 stars, both second-round picks in the NFL draft this past year. I mean, you could go down the list of all the guys that played above their ranking. Michael Barrett is another perfect example, because what we saw from the linebackers yesterday, really miss a guy like that.
I'll make one point there about Mike Barrett versus Jay-Sean Barham and Ernest Hausman. I think that on paper, you're taking Jay-Sean Barham and Ernest Hausman every day of the week, right? If you're an NFL GM, if you're just a talent evaluator, they're talking about Barham being a freak show. Ernest was a, highly rated a guy. Mike Barrett is like a high school quarterback, right? And for a long time, Mike Barrett was way too slow to be a linebacker. He, was in that Viper position, changed over. But my take on it is, like, I think Mike Barrett's probably a different kind of human being. He's a different kind of ball player and brings different things outside of just talent to the table. And I think that that's something that it seems to me, after 2 games this year, that we're lacking right now in this Michigan program, is like guys that have it, right? Leadership, different things, like some swagger, stuff like that. I think I just haven't seen it the same way that I saw it 3 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, we were pretty close to the sideline, and it just, the first couple drives, like, the crowd was into it, we're into it, the players are into it, and then once, they started to kind of roll offensively, it was just kind of dead. Like, there was no Mike Samerstill on the sideline getting guys fired up. Like, it was just kind of like going through the motions.
Let's go back to Nebraska 2021, right? And we're playing at their place, and it is the craziest game ever, right? Like, and Nebraska is fighting for their lives because they haven't won a true game in forever at that point, right? And we're down in that third quarter.
Yeah, they had all the momentum. Michigan was up 19-7. They score. Cade throws his first pick of the season. I remember that. He hadn't thrown a pick until that point. They go and score.
The stadium's going ballistic.
You go to the fourth quarter. They
go to the fourth quarter, and they do the light show. And what people, you look at that video that gets posted, right, where our guys start going nuts on the sidelines. And what you would think is that we just scored to go up 2 touchdowns on them. But in reality, we're down, I think, 20. We're down 3 maybe at the time or something.
Yeah, it was a 3-point game. Nebraska just scored.
And so that right there is, I just don't see, I don't know that we have that where it's like, hey, backs against the wall, we don't give a fuck. Like, we're going to take it in stride, and we're going to win this ball game. I talked to a lot of the guys after that TCU loss as well, and most of those guys told me straight up. Mikey Sanderson told me this straight up. He's like, yo, dude, until that clock hit 0, I legit was like, we're going to win this football game. Like, we're going to pull something off here and win this football game. And there's that mentality that those guys had where it was like, we don't care what's going on. Like, we're going to go out and figure out a way to win a football game. And I think this team right now in 2024 needs to figure out how to get some of that. I truly believe it. And this is not a knock on the guys because they care. As you know, this is not like, oh, they don't love football. They don't love Michigan, right? Like, they absolutely do. But there's I think a next level of care and want and passion that they got to go find right now, it feels like.
Yeah, I mean, even last year, the Rose Bowl, you're down 4th and 2 minutes left. Jim goes for it, and that team just never wilted. I mean, they just fought and pulled out games. I mean, the things that team went through, which is what's really disappointing because a lot of these guys on this team were there last year. They experienced it. They saw what those senior leaders did to get over that hump and to win a national championship. So I guess the one thing that I'll say, and I guess this is a good point because I just brought up the 4th and 2 going for it. You got 3 timeouts. You could easily punt right there. I think I'm just going to say this. I don't want this to be a hot take because this happened on Saturday and it really rubbed me the wrong way. I think if Sherrone Moore's the head coach, he punts right there. Because you're down 24-3. You're in field goal range, right, for a long field goal from Zapata. And you kick the field goal, and it's like, what? I don't remember what it was, like 4th and 5?
Yeah.
You have to go for that. And we talked about this pre-show, and I know you have a counterpoint to it. You have to go for that. And then the other thing, when you're down 31-6, look, you're going to lose a game. Totally get it. You're down 25 points. You're down 4 touchdowns. I totally get that.
And you haven't moved the ball all day.
But when you sit there and the play clock is at 15 and the game clock is at 13 and you let it run out, that's waving the white flag. Mm-hmm. That sends a message to your players that, like, well, get them next week, guys. Like, I can handle losing, especially, look, I'm still good. Like, I'm still chilling. Like, I came home yesterday watching football, enjoyed Notre Dame losing. I was like, honestly, they might have a point. No, like, I was pissed, right?
We might have to switch our take for our points. They called us complacent.
But no, so like I was, you were there with me. Like, I wasn't happy.
We were very.
But it was in the fashion that they went about things. And I thought there was some lackadaisicalness. I don't know if that's a word.
Lackadaisical.
But there just wasn't. Yeah, lackadaisical. There just was not like fire. To your point, that's got to come from within. That's got to come from the players. They talk about being a player-led program. That can't switch up because that's the most important thing that Michigan has done is with that.
Which culture. What's pretty surprising to me is I honestly, knowing Sherrone Moore and his passion and his fight and fire, you would think that this team would have that, right? Honestly, like this past 3 years, I really thought that Sherrone Moore was a big piece, and he probably is, right, when things are going well. And but like it looked to me like, all right, these guys will do whatever for Sherrone. If you'd have asked me that during the Penn State game, Maryland, Ohio State last year, I'm like, yeah, Sherrone, like it was the easy answer to be like, Sherrone's our guy because he obviously like had it, right? He had it where guys were going to get bought in. And, again, I think a lot of it goes back to you have to realize that Sherrone Moore is still very inexperienced as a head football coach, right? And as much as he just took things and ran with them last year, and like nobody's ever done a better job than when they're just thrown into the fire than what Sherrone Moore did last year. That still is very different than being the CEO of a program, being the actual head coach and trying to get people and get things right. And so I think there's, as much as I still very, very much believe in Sherrone Moore to make have this program into a good spot and be back, to battling for a national title and going to the college football playoff and beating Ohio State and winning Big Ten championships, there's going to be a learning curve here, right? And so that's on the coach's side. And then I think the reality is, we probably were trying to talk ourselves into this offseason. Like,
100%.
we're going to be back. We're going to reload. There's just a talent drop off from 2023, a major one.
Yeah. I almost feel like you got to take things with a grain of salt when you're looking at like 247 and On Three, and we love those guys, right? Like, we've had them all on the show, a lot of them on the show, great dudes, and it's also where that information is coming from, right? And it's almost kind of feel gaslit, honestly. Like, this defense might be better than last year, and that they're not making that up, right? They're hearing that from inside Schembechler Hall. That's not there. That's so. This isn't me saying, what the insiders we had on, because we love them, we appreciate them. But like, was it because they were going against Michigan's offense that they looked so much better? Like, that's a fair question.
It is a fair question.
And it's
and then on the opposite side of it, there, a lot of guys on the offense had told me, like, dude, we dominated the defense yesterday, right? Like, we've been showing it out, and like, I don't know, I'm struggling a little bit to know, like, what was happening at Schembechler Hall during camp and during practice here and everything, because I looked at what I saw on Saturday, and that team is nowhere near, ready to go up against any big boy in college football.
No.
Right?
And a lot of work to do.
And obviously we're talking a lot about the offense, and the offense, we'll get into breaking down some things that went wrong on Saturday, but I think we all knew that the offense was going to take a step back and defense was going to win games. But let's be honest with ourselves on the defensive side of the ball. Like, that defense is nowhere near the 2023 defense.
Bro, I felt like it was like 2019.
Yes.
Michigan was playing Wisconsin. Like, it was so easy for Texas. Like, it was unbelievably easy. And the thing that I think, and I want to get your thought on this. I always wonder this with somebody coming from the NFL. Do they not spend enough time in practice and in the film room on like fundamentals? Because there was just a lot of basic things that Michigan did poorly on Saturday that you haven't seen Michigan do since 2020. Like, it was a technique thing. Like, there was a lot. Like, they're getting stretched. Like that one touchdown when they went up 31-6. Like, nobody was able to maintain any form of leverage on that play. Those offensive linemen were just able to seal that, and he just had a wide open path to the end zone. Like, there were so many things and so this is the one thing I'll say, just I'll let you fill in here. They look poorly coached, just straight up, because there's a ton of talent. They look poorly coached in the defensive side of the ball.
Here's my response to that. I think that the guys on defense are so talented that a lot of times they think that they can rely on just their talent. And for how many different games last year could they rely on just their talent? Like, they can miss an assignment against probably 12 out of 15 teams in the 2023 season, and still they're bigger, faster, stronger, so it makes up for it, right? And they haven't had to play, I don't know that they've had to play super sound football because they were just better and bigger than a lot of these teams. And I think then you go into this offseason, every single guy on the defense is, we're talking about their draft picks. We're talking about them moving on. They're getting a ton of praise, and it's like that stuff it does things to you mentally, right? Where you're like, I don't gotta watch film. I'm too good to watch film. And again, I'm not saying they're not watching film, right? They're like, if any player saw that, and they'd be like, dude, you're an idiot. We watch film every day, right? Like, and
we are
true.
idiots. But
we are idiots. That's a fair take. But I just think that there may be some instances where it's like they aren't as all right, we have to be so buttoned up and have to do it perfectly because Kenneth Grant is a monster of a human being, right? So that's kind of my take. But let's start there with. Let's start with the defense going up against Texas's offense. I agree with you. I think there are two things here that went wrong, and these two things are going to make you a bad football team and lose you a lot of football games. One, Texas's offensive line was so much bigger than our defensive line, and that's hard to do. They were monsters. They were way bigger. They pushed us. They bullied us around. We haven't had anybody bully us around like that in at least 2 years.
Yeah.
And so that right there, just from a physicality standpoint, was like, holy shit. And I think that these guys were probably like, oh shit, like what are we dealing with right now? After those first couple, after that first drive, after those first couple plays, I think they're probably like, damn, not to call guys out, but like I saw Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant gassed. They're tapping themselves out multiple times. We're in the first and second quarter, and obviously we need to rotate, and you need to get a breath, and that's fine. But like, it looked like they were not ready to go up against those big boys. So that's my first point. My second point is going back to the sound football, and we talked about this, and you can talk about the PFF grades and some things like that. There were just so many missed assignments. It was there were, there were times where we got bullied, and then there were times where it was just like, okay, nobody's on that guy. Right?
Yeah.
So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about the swing pass where we saw it in the stadium, and Josiah, comes towards Ewers, and then the running back is just wide open, and they get a big gain out of it. Tackling was awful. Like, that's something that Michigan's really has prided itself on over the last few years. Like, they tackle. They're physical. How many we saw so many missed tackles, arm tackle attempts, like just like again,
even like
emotions.
Even their runs, it was like they did to us what we did to people all last year, where it's like, okay, you stopped us at the line of scrimmage, we still get 5 yards out of it because Blake squeaks through, or we push the pile, or do whatever. Like, that was. I can't even remember which one it was, but there was one, I think we had him back on 3rd and 5, and the running back, like, we stopped him, but he like lowers his head and squeaks all the way through for like 6, 7, 8 yards. And I was just like, man, like it was that all day long, man.
Yeah.
All day long.
I mean, they rushed for 143 yards on, I think, 32 attempts. So it's not like, they were probably at 4.5 yards a carry. It was like the big moments is when they needed it, they got it. Right? Like they had the big run from Wingo. Otherwise, I think their longest was 11 yards, but it just felt like whenever, it'd be 2nd and 2, right? And it's like, man, they just had an 8-yard run, and then that opens things up for Ewers, which, we talked about, and again, this is probably copium. So, hey, you want to make fun of me, that's fine. Coming into the season. But I continually said that, hey, Michigan lost 13 guys to the draft, and then however many UDFAs they had, and then Texas lost 11 guys, and however many undrafted guys they had. The thing with Texas, to your point, is they returned a majority of their offensive line, and they returned their quarterback, and they returned their head coach. Like,
the way I put it yesterday to you, I thought this summed it up pretty well. Texas in 2024 is Michigan in 2023, where
it feels that way.
We in 2023, we had just lost to TCU, had gotten over the Ohio State hump, was this close to getting over getting that CFP win, but like not quite enough. And then we reloaded. We bring Mikey Sanders still back. We bring Cornelius back. We bring Blake Corum back. JJ's at QB. Colston, Mason, we reloaded and set it up for this run where it's like, all right, in 2023, this is our year. We brought everything's coming together here for this to be the year to go and win a national title. And then they did. Yeah. That to me is what Texas did this past offseason. And now we're seeing it. They they bring these guys back. They reloaded on the offensive line. Their defense looked really good. And Ewers is he the best quarterback in the country? Like,
probably him or Carson Beck, I would say, just because of the experience. And I know everyone talked about Shadur. The video game had him number 1. It's like, brother, I saw that belt to ass from Nebraska coming a mile away, and they dominated last night. So I think Shout out to the Huskers. Shout out to our boys at No Block No Rock. I'm sure they're feeling a lot better than us this Sunday morning. But
Yeah. For the first time in a long time. I'll say that. For the first time in a long time.
I mean, honestly, just a broad statement here. My top 3 this year so far, from what I've seen, might be yours, Beck. Just what he did last year. I mean, what they did to Clemson. And then my sneaky third is Cameron Ward. That dude at Miami is balling out. I mean, they haven't played anybody yet, but he looks phenomenal.
I think, I mean, I watched Quinn Ewers yesterday, and first of all, if there are any and I'm sure they're not now, but I know last year it was like Quinn or Arch. And anybody who was asking for Arch,
hey, we saw a lot of Arch jerseys, by the way.
Which is
surprising.
I know he's a Manning. I get it. It's a cool thing, but like, dude, you have the probably number 1 quarterback in the country, or arguably. And I watched Quinn Ewers yesterday. He made everything look so easy. He on that touchdown pass, one of the first ones to the tight end coming across, where he steps up after the pocket collapses. He steps up, keeps his eyes downfield, kind of on the run, just right here. He just like swing, like sideline or sideways. Pat Mahomes slings it, flick of the wrist. Man, he made that look like it was nothing.
Yeah, he came in and he did his thing. Almost had another touchdown that gets called back for a holding, but the throw he made, I mean, he threw his guy open in the end zone. So, yeah, I mean, defensively, I think one of the most disappointing things that we have our show Blue by the Numbers with our boy BB's Big House that him and I do. And so what we do in that show is we go through the PFF grades. We just kind of talk position by position, try to be more analytical. Again, for somebody who likes to think they know ball, but I don't know it at the level that some of these folks do on their shows. But like, we try to go through and give our thoughts. And I've always kind of disagreed with PFF, but I will say when I saw these numbers, I wholeheartedly agreed. Do you want to know who the 2 worst graded guys on Saturday for Michigan's defense were? Do you want to take a guess?
It's hard to say.
It's the same position group. It's the 2 starters.
It's got to be the linebackers, right?
It's the linebackers, and then Jimmy Roller was 4th from last. So I typically will, sometimes I don't think they're the most, because they have a tough job, right? They probably got low level people just trying to do that, and it's like, is that a coach, right? Do they have a coaching experience background? It's hard to grade that stuff. I thought they were pretty poor on Saturday, and that also, I know everybody in 2020 at Michigan was pretty bad for the most part, but I just still all off season was like, we're gonna bring back Brian Jean-Marie. I didn't know much about Tennessee's linebackers the last few years. Supposed to be a great recruiter. That's not really coming to fruition on the trail right now. Maybe they get this kid from IMG, I don't know. But I just was really disappointed in a lot of the defense. Just from a technique standpoint, it's like, is that not a focus in practice? Because the greats, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, those guys shooting free throws, right? Tom Brady, he's practicing, short throws, like his dropbacks, his handoffs. Peyton Manning put a lot of emphasis on the play action fake and handing the ball off. So it's like, are they just not focusing on the fundamentals of football? Because that's extremely important. That's what wins you a lot of games. And I just thought that Texas really took advantage of the defense, and I was really disappointed. The offensive struggles, and we'll get to that, are one thing, but with how hyped this defense has been, all the talent coming back, we've been told all offseason, they might be better. They might be better than last year. And they come out, they get punched in the mouth, and they have no answer. They have no response. They have no idea how to combat what Texas is doing. Sark came in, diced him up. I mean, it wasn't even
a great coach.
The first round knockout when it comes to Stark versus Wink. It was ridiculous. It wasn't even close. So that,
and I agree with you
moving forward.
I agree with you too. They put up 31. It doesn't look like that,
they could have scored 50.
If they wanted, they were very strategic, and it kept reminding me of 2023 Michigan, because it was like every play was perfectly calculated to get this exact amount of yards. And when they needed 7, they got 7.5. Right. And it was like, there was a stat with Michigan last year where it was like, they perfectly got the first down every time, like to the T of yardage, or like by 0.1 yards or something like that. And that's what it felt like. It was like, to your point, this offense of Texas, they when they needed something, they got it. I mean, there were very few times where we didn't let it happen, right? And you know, I did. So the first drive, you know, the crowd's going nuts. Shout out, the Maze Out looked awesome. That was great, I think. But we almost get a pick six on that screen pass. Does that change the game?
I mean, you know, that's the thing about this team, and that we've said the last 2 weeks now. And again, they got smoked. So do not get it twisted. I'm not making excuses, but football is a game of inches, and there was Macari almost had a pick. It might have been a pick six. When they were up 7-3, I believe Texas was. Like just some plays here or there, you know, maybe change the outcome. But I mean, truthfully, Michigan, we got our ass kicked. Like,
yeah.
They came in, they put belt to ass, like I said. That's a phrase I've been seeing a lot lately. I don't know if it's a youthful movement thing, but I think it's hilarious. Like that's a good analogy for what happened. Like Texas came in, did whatever they wanted, and we had no answer, and it seemed like Michigan just didn't really. It just we're just like, okay, cool, just keep digging and dunking on us, and we'll just, you know, we'll get out of here.
Yeah, I mean, I think after a while there, Michigan's defense was just like they couldn't keep up. You know, because
they were tired, man. They were subbing out.
They were very tired.
Do you want to know who the highest graded guy on 6 snaps was? Ike Awana. So
that's not a good sign. I'll just be honest with you.
Yeah. I will say, thought Will. I mean, they didn't target him, so you know they picked on Jair.
How did Will catch that guy on the close almost touchdown?
That was tough. That was, I don't know if you've seen it on the TV, but that was going like to the opposite, like to the close corner of us, away from us. So like I just saw it and I was like, all right, cool.
I thought
I
looked away.
Yeah, dude. I just was like, dude, there was times where I just started, like, I always watch on the field, and I was like, dude, my feet hurt. I'm just gonna sit. I'm just gonna watch up on the scoreboard. I felt like such a crappy fan, but hey, my feet were killing me, man. It was a long day. We
had a great tailgate. I'll say that.
Dude, up until about noon, day was great.
Day was awesome. Shout out to Bussin' with the Boys for coming through. Taylor LeBron, Will Thompson. They came through the tailgate, cool. Hung out for a bit, which was
some picks. We might be in the vlog that they do. Both those guys were super cool, down to earth, like entertained us, like, and even if they were just, like I told you, if they were just pretending to like care, like that goes a long way of like, hey, you know what? We're just chopping it up, talking some ball. And they were super cool, man. Like they had places to be, things to do. They had to fly to Lincoln, Nebraska. And so, you know, they were just extremely gracious and, you know, cool to us, which was awesome. So shout out to them. I got a nice little Twisted Tea goodie bag.
Love that.
Got a flag, Twisted Tea flag. You know, shout out Twisted Tea. Shout out Truly, hooking us up at the tailgate.
I think the funniest thing was for Will. I was like, we got it. He's like, yeah, we're Twisted Tea guys. I was like, we got a Truly sponsorship, and he's like, shh. I'm like, bro, they're owned by the same company. He's like, oh, okay.
Is it Boston Brewing Company?
Boston Brewing Company.
Yeah.
Tim Adams and Twisted Tea, Truly, Sun Cruiser. So shout out to them. Shout out to North Peak Brewing as always as well. Shout out to State and Liberty. We appreciate State and Liberty.
Yeah, it was a great dual tailgate. The breakfast burritos were phenomenal.
The tailgate, you know, regardless of the outcome of the game, the tailgate remains undefeated. We absolutely remained undefeated.
Unbelievable.
Most of the Texas fans were awesome, by the way.
I didn't have a bad experience, really. Like I couldn't, they're supporting their team, and it was annoying as hell to hear them kind of overtake the big house at the game. But
what are they gonna do? Just be quiet?
Exactly. You know, I had a friend and his wife and some of their friends come down. They were playing Flip Cup with us. We did beat them in Flip Cup, Michigan versus Texas.
So we did win. We
did win. We won that. So what really is important? You know,
exactly. It was awesome. Most of the Texas fans were great. I agree with you. I really, outside of a couple comments like here and there, but for the most part, they were great. So many Texas fans didn't love that.
No,
but they traveled. Again, though, like it takes me back to 2023 Michigan. Like they think this is their year, and it could very well be.
I understand why. Texas, Georgia, by the way. I don't know when that is.
That's going to be an awesome game.
That's going to be one of the best games of the year.
That is 100%. So, all right, let's talk about Michigan's offense. Dude, where do we start? I mean, this is just, I don't know what to say, to be honest, because there was not much going on. Again, there's not much to cheer about for this offense.
Dude, the sarcastic like cheers when Michigan got a first down was like
Sad.
yeah. Like
Also,
but you know
you wanna
what?
know-
Hey, we were loud, man.
We were very loud.
First quarter was crazy. Like we were loud. We were
It
ready
was-
to like explode, and then nothing happened.
Yeah. Michigan. I will say this too before we go talking about the offense. It was the saddest Mr. Brightside I've ever seen in my life.
I know, dude, but you expect me to sing that right now because I
Like,
won't.
honestly,
know?
they should have just been like, you know what? Maybe we'll do that
Yeah.
next week. We'll do
Yeah,
that.
not to sound like front runners, but like that is tough to sing when you're down by 25 points.
Yes.
You know, when you're in a close game, hey, it's one thing.
Yeah.
You know, I will say though, last year after the third quarter of the Bowling Green game, I was like, I don't want to sing this. Throw 3 interceptions. Are you kidding me? I was pouting.
At least we were.
Bowling, I knew,
winning.
man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and again, like the one thing that like a lot of us in our section were kind of joking about is like I said this comment probably 1,000 times, but I was like, look, if you told me we had to get smoked by Texas, but Michigan won the Natty last year, I'd be like, all right, cool,
I'll take it.
take it.
But yeah, for this offense, I mean, it's still the same as game one. It starts with the offensive line. I think that it's really the same as it's the same as Texas's offensive line versus our D. You know, for our offensive line versus their D, it's like we probably don't have a single guy on our offensive line that is bigger, faster, stronger than anybody on Texas's defensive line.
Yeah.
Right. And so all across the board, they were pushing us around. We got zero push all day. And, you know, I think one of my biggest concerns when it comes to Kirk Campbell and Sharon Moore and the game planning and play calling, we are calling plays as if we have our 2023 offensive line. Trying to run smash mouth football. I'm a big run the damn ball guy, 100%. Like, you have to establish it in order to win football games. But like, I don't know. It feels like we're just like banging our head into a brick wall, like time after time, where it's like, hey man, we don't have the guys that are going to be able to just shove people around and push for 5 yards. You're going to have to figure something out. And, you know, we talked a little bit like Donovan and Kalel both rushed for, I think, over 4 yards a carry. So it wasn't like bad, but they had 14 carries combined.
Yeah, that's
weird.
That's
weird.
Yeah, I mean, and Ben Hall comes in and has a really nice run. I mean, so the 3 running backs that touched the ball today, 17 carries for 80 yards. You're just under 5 yards a pop. It felt like, all right, yeah, you're down. Hey, look, you're down, you know, at points in the game, you're down 7-3, you're down 14-3, you're down 17-3, you know, and then the fumble happens, and it's just, that's basically a game where Texas goes out and scores. But like up until the second half where you're down 3 scores and you've got to go, I feel like they did. Yeah, I feel like they abandoned the run a little bit. I think there was some opportunities there. There was a missed cutback lane by Donovan that might have been an explosive. He almost scored. If he stays on his feet, he scores that touchdown in the first quarter. That would have tied the game, I believe, at that point. So, yeah, I mean, you know, Davis goes 22 of 33.
This is what I said too to Zach last night when we were hanging out just watching football, watching Clemson beat the shit out of App State.
Yeah, that was like 21-0 in like 5 minutes.
It was, so my wife was working the game down there, running, like we were texting her like, are you gonna run out of fireworks? It was like they were very concerned, but it was like 42-0 at halftime or something. It was insane. But going back to it, like, dude, if you were to tell me Davis was going to go 22 of 33 versus Texas, I'm like, oh, okay. So we like threw for 3 touchdowns or something. Like we just have this like awesome air raid offense. So like it looks on paper, I'm like, damn, that's legit. And I think that like, a we were playing from behind all game, right? So you have to throw the ball. I think that's got to be a main reason why they didn't run it more than 17 times. But like, I don't know, man. It felt like this offense, same as week one, like zero identity. Like, what is this? What is this?
They're making it very hard too, right? Like, dude, I can't remember if it was the interception, that the first interception, but they went 5 wide and everybody ran like a 3-yard hitch. Just like, okay, I don't know what concepts we've got in mind here, but to be honest, they stink. Those concepts suck. Like, and there was some creativity. I'll give him some props. Like, I really like the fake end around that Donovan, the one that he almost scored on.
Yeah.
If he's able to, keep his footing, he scores. The flea flicker was nice. It was good to see CJ Charleston catch a ball, I guess. That was nice. Like, feeling good, and then you have to settle for a field goal. But hey, you're in the game. You're down 4 at that point. But yeah, man, it's just like, can we just see mesh like once? Like, they ran a lot of mesh last year, and then they were able to use the mesh traffic play where the running back sneaks out, and that was the Blake 4th and 2 against Bama, the Blake touchdown in the first quarter in the Rose Bowl. Like, just give me some crossers. Like, if he can't run routes, then let him just run a drag route, because all a drag route is, you just literally one step and you're just cutting across the field. Like, let me just see some mesh concepts. Screw it. Like, let Amarion Walker just run a go route. Let's just see what happens. Maybe the DB falls down. Like, there's just I don't even, again, I'm not a savant like that, so I can't sit here and pinpoint the issues, but like, it's just, I don't know. I just didn't enjoy it. I'll be honest. I didn't have a great time, Justin. It was not fun.
I did not have a great time either. It's really hard for me to identify what the issues are, right? I admittly did not go back and watch the game on TV.
Not yet. Yeah, it's not even noon yet. It's too soon.
It's too soon, and I was dead from yesterday. So
my legs are still killing.
Yeah, just struggling. But I think it's just very apparent that, like, I think one thing that I want to talk about too is this right here, which is I think that Davis Warren is getting a lot of hate on social media, and that comes with being the Michigan quarterback, right? If you're the Michigan quarterback and your offense is not doing what you think it should, you're going to get a lot of hate. And although I think that, like, Davis isn't the most talented guy in the world, right? And he's, definitely not JJ McCarthy, but he's not the biggest problem. Could he have been better? Yes. Did he make mistakes? Yes. He'd admit that to you, right? But I think there are a lot of other things going on that I would point to with this offense rather than Davis Warren. Do you agree with that take?
Yeah, I mean, again, I can't remember if the first interception, the one that got tipped up, I think that was the all hitch play. Like, all 5 guys wide run a hitch. It's like, that's this ain't NCAA, Kirk. Like, we got to have something, get some guys running across the field. Like, it's college football, man. Like, you can get with it. You can find spots in the zone. Like, Davis, that's the one thing he brings, is he's been in the program for 4 years. He's a smart guy. He doesn't have the biggest arm, but, like, if he can get snap reads and try to identify where a guy might be open, that's probably going to be his, like, it's very Cade McNamara-esque.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you're not JJ McCarthy on your 4th read making a play necessarily. And that maybe that'll come for him, right? You gotta play football to get better at football. And Davis, 2 starts in. So, but like the other pick, you're down, Colston doesn't look, just some miscommunication. I don't know who that's on. You're just trying to make a play. And DB makes a great sliding interception, basically. And it's like, and he missed Samaj over the middle, deep down the field. It's like, that stinks. But he put the ball in some spots. He had the offense moving here and there. But it's just like, I mean, if Colson Loveland's not making a play, this passing game's not existent. Because the receivers, dude, I told you, we were not recording, but I was going through each of the last however many recruiting classes, and it is depressing. Because either the guys are here and they don't play, or they transferred. And there's just no depth. Nobody can get open. I don't know what's going on in the receiver room, man. Like, there's just nothing happening.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I really think it goes back to the recruiting and the the portal and everything, where it's like there's just a major talent drop off. What I tweeted this out a little bit and talked about it last night while we were watching football. This is I'll use the wide receivers as the example, but I think it is all over the map. There are a lot of guys that we would have called average last year, quote unquote average. Cornelius Johnson is my example. Cornelius Johnson, outside of 2022 Ohio State, where he burns Lathan Ransom and has multiple touchdowns, you were never looking at Cornelius Johnson like that's our playmaker, that's our guy who's going to like dominate. He's always open. He takes the top off the defense. But you'd kill for Cornelius Johnson right now, right? You need a guy that is running perfect routes. He's reliable as hell when catching the ball. He's your go-to when you need it. Like that's my example. There are a lot, Carson Barnhart's the other guy that I would say like nothing crazy. It's not like he's like, one of the top linemen in the country, but like does his job every single time. Right. Yeah. I know we talk about Carson for Penn State pass blocking,
because he's a guard. I mean, he was a good guard, right?
Exactly. But like you'd kill for Carson Barnhart in this situation. Same with Ladarius Henderson. And so, I think when we're going back to the wide receivers, like you just don't have guys that are going to like do their job and get it done. And I think there's a talent drop off. Like the talent drop off between Cornelius Johnson and the guys in this receiver room right now is pretty major.
Yeah, I mean, because I think Samaj is definitely more of like a gadget guy, right? Like more of a wide receiver 3. But again, I will just run an all mesh offense, man. Just see what happens. I don't know. Like that'd be more creative than whatever the hell's going on down there right now. Like I mean, just run mesh with Morris and Morgan and have Colston do something. And I don't know, man. It's just yeah, not great.
Here's what I want to talk about too. The mistakes.
Yeah. We talked about it, man. We talked about it on the pregame pod. Like, if Michigan was going to be competitive and win this game, they needed to do what Texas did to Michigan, not have it happen to them, right? Like, they needed 3 turnovers. They needed unforced errors. They needed to be able to move the ball and maintain possession. And I don't know what it ended up being, but at one point, Michigan was it was like 2-1 time of possession. Yeah. Like, they were just holding the ball.
I think it ended up that we were like 3 minutes behind them in time of possession because we were driving all that fourth quarter. But I mean, it's just very uncharacteristic. I said it. I said this in our like training camp podcast of talking about Davis Warren in this offense and why I thought that Davis Warren could lead this offense to be solid. And the reason why I said it was because Michigan's offense didn't win by being super explosive or doing crazy things. They won by taking care of the football. They won by not having penalties. They won by making the right play when the play was needed to be made. And you start off the first play of the game in your own freaking stadium with a false start by your senior. That is not okay. That is you cannot have that, man. And here's my opinion: like that shit doesn't happen under Jim Harbaugh.
The Michigan very sloppy.
The Michigan football program that I know from Jim Harbaugh was that does not happen, right? And I think that's like one of the most frustrating things to me is like right from the get-go that's the case. You all of a sudden are in 1st and 15. Donovan actually rips off 2 great runs that would have gotten you a first down if you're in 1st and 10. And then it's like, same with the almost interception by Macari, right? Like, or on the, that changes the game possibly, right? Like you get a first down, maybe you get they see something, you feel momentum. Like that false start just pisses me off, man, because it's like you have to control the controllables.
Yeah.
We did not control the controllables.
Yeah.
You can't control that Quinn Ewers is really good at football, right? But you can control making a mistake. Colston Loveland, who's your guy, the guy on this, maybe the only like dog on this Michigan offense, and he doesn't tuck the ball. He forces his own fumble.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm sorry, I'm ranting a little bit right now, but like that shit, like that's the shit that really irks me, because that's not Michigan football.
I have one that I complained about in the stadium that really, really rubbed me the wrong way. Is that Texas is down at the one, is first and goal, is 24-6, and there's like, I don't know what happened because it was away from us where we were sitting. So Quinn Ewers gets hit, and he had taken a knee, and no flag was thrown, and then you get the jawing, and it's like, come on,
You want to show fight now?
Yeah, you want to show fight in the ways that don't help you win a football game. And then some of the celebrations from some of the guys, when you're down 25 points, you got the goggles or whatever the hell we're doing. I don't like that, right? Like, I do not like that. Like, if you want to do that when you're winning, you go right ahead. But when you're getting smoked on the game of the week, you got Matthew McConaughey there. I mean, come on, dude. Like, you got the eyes of the country on you, and you're doing all this extra stuff. I'm not a fan of it.
I think, to your point, the play where Ewers took a knee, and then I think it was Cam Brandt smoked him, and like there should have been a flag 1,000%. Like if I was Sark, I would have flipped out on that. But that, to me, like that's what Michigan did to other teams. Like they made other teams get so pissy and make those stupid mistakes in the past, where it's like, you know, that to me is a sign of a bad football team, because you're letting things get to you, right? And like you can't show the fight when you need to, but then you're gonna do some extracurriculars once you get already getting your ass kicked. That's not as I don't like that as being characteristics of our team, of our program. And so, you know, I don't know, man. I think that, like, again, I fully believe that Sharon Moore is going to have this program, you know, in a good spot, whether it's next year, the year after, you know, whatever. I'm not really sure yet, but I think that right now he's got to look in the mirror a little bit and say, like, who are we? Yeah. What are we gonna pride ourselves on?
Yeah.
You know, you can say a lot of things about Jim Harbaugh. He's a weird dude in a weird, quirky way, but he builds programs by doing things the right way. And you can, you know, somebody in the comments is going to talk about cheating and sign stealing. I really don't give a fuck. But you know, to me, it is, he built this program, and the way that they turned it around, you know, was by, hey, we're going to be so sound in all aspects of the game. We're not going to turn the ball over. We're not going to have penalties. We're not going to showboat. We're blue collar. We'll dig deep. Like, we've got grit. I don't see a lot of that as characteristics. No. I'm not naming many of those right now if I'm talking about this football program currently.
No, dude. Like, I don't know, man. It just doesn't feel the same. And obviously, you know, to your point about Sharon, like Sharon in that same conversation with the guy in the mirror, like, who am I going to be as a coach? Like, I can't be Jim. So who am I going to be as a head football coach at the University of Michigan? That's going to be the conversation he has to have with himself. It's a big week. Like, this is and we'll talk about Arkansas State. And that's going to be an interesting tailgate. I don't know what it's going to look like. But for the team, that is a big game. And they're going to win. Just be real. They're going to win. They have to find some sort of momentum, something that they can lean on offensively and defensively. Because this is the second straight week where the special teams is by far and away the best unit. Shout out to Zavada, maybe the best player on the team at this point.
Dude, seriously though.
But this is a big week of preparation. This is a big week for these guys to try to get back on track, and they better show something against Arkansas State, because guess what? You got USC coming to town. Yeah, I know LSU looks like dog shit. on Saturday against Nicholls State. I think I can't remember who they played. They were not. They didn't
And
look great.
USC also looked like their offense still looked good, but their defense is bad.
Dude, they gave up. Well, they just gave up. They just had a shutout against Utah State. I mean, it's Utah State, but they won 48-0. So what does that look like with them coming to town? Like, that's going to be an opportunity to get, like, because you have all your goals in front of you. That's the thing, right? Like, the vibes of the team right now from the outside looking in are like, they stink. You still have plenty of opportunities you don't have a conference loss, right? Like, you still have all of your goals are in front of you. Big Ten championship, national playoffs, national championships. Those are all in front of you. I don't know if they're going to get to those goals, but as a player and as a coach.
Sorry, I totally just interrupted you. I apologize. I realized USC won 48-0. That's on me. I was thinking of Oregon against Boise State.
Yeah, I fell asleep. Old man over here. Yeah. But I was afraid. You know what? Fell asleep. First thing I did though.
This is tough.
Oregon, Boise.
We'll get back to Michigan responding because I do really want to talk about that. But I don't know if I can do these West Coast Big Ten teams. I got to stay up to watch Oregon and USC to know what they're like till 2 a.m. I mean, this is very boomer and old man of us, but like, this is tough. To start the day at 4 a.m. and have to stay up till 2 to keep watching football, tough. But yeah, all right, back to, I think you were making a really good point of like, there's still a lot of season left ahead of you. How does this team respond? Are we cashing it in right now? Are there guys that are ready to go to the NFL right now after week 2? They're like, listen, I'm going to get mine. I'm ready to, I'm going to make sure that I try to do my best to go be a top 10 pick. Or
do that. Because these guys aren't going to be top 10 picks if that's the performance we're getting, right? So go be a top 10 pick. Play well. We need that, right? Like, go do that. But if you're just thinking you're going to pack it in, because guess what? I don't know if these guys know this or you know this, but the NFL, a lot harder.
Really hard. Really hard.
A lot of great college football players do not make it in the NFL, right? So, like,
you want to know
the level of preparation? It's got to be better.
You know how how hard it was to go up against that Texas offensive line? Every single team in the NFL has 5 of those guys. They're all probably better.
Yeah.
Right? Take their best offensive linemen. They've got 5 of them.
Yeah.
Right?
It's got to be better, man. It's just,
but I definitely agree with you, like, on an individual basis for sure. But, like, as a team, right? Are you guys going to respond as a team, come together? Can it be 2021 Michigan after that Michigan State game? Right? Who's going to be the Aiden Hutchinson of this team? Who's going to be the guy that's like, listen, we're going to get this shit right.
Yeah.
We're going to figure this out. We're going to keep putting our feet on the pavement. We're going to clock back into Schembechler Hall this morning on Sunday, go back to work on Monday, and we're going to figure this out. I think I'm waiting to find out who that guy is.
Yeah, I mean, legacy-wise, a lot of these guys have cemented themselves as legendary players, right? But I will say this: if you go out with a whimper, I don't know if these guys care about that because they're 2-0 against Ohio State. These juniors, right? They're 2-0 against Ohio State, 2-time Big Ten champs, 1-time national champs. All Americans, all that stuff, right? Like, so your legacy is cemented. But like, do you want to go out with a whimper?
Do you want to go out on?
Yeah, exactly. Like Blake Corum went out 3-0 and 3-time Big Ten champion and a national champion. Like, do you want to go out that way to be remembered? Because like Blake Corum is an all-time Michigan legend now. Forever. Like, forget the record books, all that stuff. What he did, what he meant to the program. Do you want to be like that, or you want to be a guy that was just along for the ride? That's up to those guys to figure that out.
I agree. They've got to figure it out, and I think there's plenty of ball to be played. There's plenty of time to figure something out. You're not all of a sudden going to get 5 new linemen, right? You're not going to get Kyle McCord to transfer here, right? Like
He looks so good, by the way.
dude. He looks so
We
good.
we jokingly talked about that, but like that would have been probably nice.
That also would have been the most electric transfer of all time, Ohio State, after he got like run out of town, and then he comes here, and if he's like really good, would have been awesome.
Can you imagine the conspiracy theories? Like, oh, they only got him so he could provide the practice footage from Huddle and Catapult. That's why they knew the screen was coming in 2022. Yeah,
that would have been amazing.
By the way, I just want to say this real quick, and I'll let you take us out here, or whatever you want to go with it. I don't think we're complacent because we just spent an hour bitching and moaning.
I agree. Listen, I some people texted me doing a wellness check on me last night. I'm not as like melting down as I normally would be, right? If we don't win the Natty last year and then this is how it's going, I'm in a very, very different headspace.
Yes.
Right. I'm broken at that point if that's the case.
Yeah.
But the Natty helps. It helps a lot for sure. And I'm not saying like if we go 7-5 this year, I'm not going to be okay with that. The Natty does not go that far for me. But I think when you realize what you lost, I think what I realized as well is like how good Nick Saban is and how good these, Dabo with Clemson and like these teams that just reloaded for like 10 years straight, year after year after year. It's really freaking hard. And so you gotta tip the cap to a lot of those guys, but we'll see what Michigan does. I think I'm very curious as to what happens this Saturday, even though it's Arkansas State. Do they come out firing? I got to give it to Clemson for getting their ass kicked just as bad or worse by Georgia than we just did to Texas. They came out with a vengeance on Saturday. And App State's a good program. I don't know what they're like this year, but like they're a good program over the past 5-10 years. Yeah. And so, I'm looking, does Michigan come out, are they going to score 70 points like Clemson did? I don't know, but you got to come out and show the people, show yourselves. All right. Hey, we can still figure this thing out. So that's what I'm looking for, man. So, all right. Well, I'll end it with that. We'll be back at the tailgate. We'll have a pod this week. Shout out North Peak Brewing. Truly, and Sun Cruiser, we appreciate you. Shout out State and Liberty. For us, you can follow us at Blue by 90 on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, at Blue by 90 Podcast on YouTube, and blueby90.com. We appreciate you. Go Blue.
Go Blue.